Welcome to Sticking to the Truth with Julene Jackson and Debbie Jansen. Oh, it is so good to see you, Julene. How are you doing, darling?
So good. So happy to be here on this beautiful fall afternoon.
Oh, I'm doing good too, Julene, but you've had a lot of fun the last few weeks, right?
We just came back from marrying off another child. In the last 5 months, I got our first grandbaby. We married off a son, and now we married off a daughter on Saturday. It was glorious. Family and friends flew in from all over the country, had a beautiful ceremony, lovely luncheon for 100 people, and then a reception that evening in a beautiful historic building. I think about 400 people came. My heart was so happy, and my feet were so sore, is all I can say by the end of the evening. But it was glorious. And now that sweet little girl, she's 25, married a good doctor. They're honeymooning in some cabin up in the mountains. I don't even know where they are. I hope she's okay. But all is well. You know, these are happy years when all the kids are figuring out life and making big decisions. And you know, sometimes they don't always make great choices, and then other times they just nail it. You can just see that the paths they're on are going to lead to many decades of happiness. So it was a great weekend, but I am a little weary. I'm not going to lie to you. I still not feeling like I'm back to 100%.
I get that. I think I'm going to send you a big old pillow in the mail and say you have to use this at least 7 hours a night.
Send it on. I'm needing it.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I've had a few bad weeks of vertigo. I found out it's quite common, and a lot of people experience it. It's wild. It throws you off balance, and you feel like the world around you is spinning. I felt like my head was coming off, actually, when it happened to me. But I'm better now. And I still feel the spinning and out of control, unfortunately, when I watch the news. I've watched several stations cover the No Kings Rally, and I was sure my vertigo was back. All the stations did interviews with the protesters, and I was just so frustrated because no one actually knew why they don't want kings. They ask them over and over, well, why don't you want a king? What's the problem with the king? And nobody knew. But they said it over and over. They just couldn't explain it. So, Julene, can you give us some history about kings and why our forefathers were against a monarchy?
Well, I had the privilege, shall we say, of walking with the No Kings Rally for a few blocks, because one day we live in the Washington, D.C. area, but we have a place in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I was in Salt Lake for the wedding. I was coming back from yoga, and before I knew it, I'm walking with the crowd to get to my apartment building, which is right downtown. So I look around, and there was quite a few people in fur and like little doggy and animal outfits. And I thought, I wonder, what is this? The people that are sympathetic towards the furries? So someone explained to me that that's a form of support for transgenderism, I guess. And they had pacifiers in their mouth. And I was like, wow, what kind of crowd is this? And then the signs were really something else. Quite actually explicit, some of them. And they carrying very explicit signs, you know, looking like they're having a great time, but actually looking like they're kind of beside themselves as well to even be a part of something like that. So, you know, to me, people like that just don't even know or understand the history of wicked kings and the horror that they rained down on civilization from the beginning of time. Even in the Bible, it says, you know, when kings are wicked, when wicked people rule, the people mourn, right? Wicked kings,
right.
You know? And so we're heading right into the beautiful Thanksgiving time when we think about our pilgrims, right? Why they came to America in 1620 and everything they left their beloved England for. And really, it was rooted in ungodly kings that were wanting them, you know, to live a life of faith according to what the government told them was acceptable. The government told them how, at the Church of England, how to worship their God. And these people, once the Bibles began to make their way to people, up until a great deal of history, only the kingly people or the government had access to the word. And once the printing press came forth and William Tyndale and all these great reformers began to kind of smuggle in get Bibles out to people, people could now begin to know for themselves what God intended for them to do. It wasn't just what the government told them, God told them to do. And so these separatists, these people that wanted to be able to worship God according to the dictates of their own conscience, not what, Queen Mary or Queen Elizabeth and ultimately King James. King James was the King of England when the Pilgrims came across to America. And, I always like to be a little bit merciful upon King James, because he really was the one that put forth the Bible that I still study today, the King James Version. He wanted to standardize it, but he was bad news. I mean, these little pilgrims came into a time when there was darkness surrounding them on all sides. And if they disagreed with the king, they were hung and burned at the stake, quartered for disagreeing with them. And so the culture under King James was very bad. He mismanaged the government. He set himself up as God. He ruled, he called it by the divine right of kings, meaning he was accountable to no one but God, certainly not accountable to the people. And so, he bankrupted England under King James. He ruled from 1602 to 1625. Now, remember, the Pilgrims came over in 1620. He tripled the debt. He considered himself a devout Christian, but yet he hunted down the devout Christians. And that's what he did with the separatists and the Puritans in England. For 4 years, they would secretly under candlelight meet in their little basements. And when he caught wind of that, he threw them in jail. He would separate, for over a year, some of these separatists were apart from their family. And so, taking life into their own hands, these pilgrims, about 100 of them, made their way to the New World. And William Bradford, one of the earlier governors of Plymouth, said that this one small light that was kindled in Plymouth now will be shined to entire nations. And we know that 400 years later, because of the Pilgrims' courage to leave this kind of dictatorial, tyrannical rule that they were experiencing. A true king, they were willing to lay down their lives and go forth, and we are reaping the rewards of what that brought forth. And so I just think, these No Kings Rally, I don't think they really understand, how harmful kingly rule has been, evil monarchical rule. And what President Trump is doing is the opposite of that. A king wants all the power for himself and to keep people in the dark. President Trump is trying to dismantle the government. He's trying to make it smaller and send responsibilities back to the states. That's exactly what our Constitution says. Only small and limited and carefully defined powers should be delegated to the federal government. All others should go back to the state and to the people. But, these people are saying, well, I really think, like, people that are involved in these No King Rally, the government is their God, right? They look to the government to solve all their problems. So if the government now is reducing and wanting people and, the local communities where they live to figure out their problems, they don't like that. And truly, Debbie, and like, don't get me started on this, but I'll just make one more point, that what are they saying that he's doing that is kingly? Oh, he's, killing or arresting people that are bringing harmful substances, drugs into our country, or he's wanting to deport, terrorists that have illegally come into our country, that are committing crimes and setting up gangs. He's trying to restore morality and religion and knowledge into our schools by removing curriculums that are harmful, mentally harmful for children. It's being shown, getting rid of transgenderism and LGBTQ teachings, and restoring women's sports to women and men's sports to men. Because he's doing that, are they saying that he is acting as a king? I have to think that's, and really what he's saying is, I'm just restoring common sense. And it is his job to ensure the safety of his people, to shore up the border so unsafe people and entities don't enter. And they're saying, oh, that's a form of him, trying to exert too much control, I suppose,
Oh my goodness, you covered that terrific. Thank you so much. But let me get this straight. If President Trump was a real king, these protesters, according to what you said, would have been arrested just for being outspoken and against Trump. Yet, instead, Trump, ICE, the National Guard, and government officials are doing the opposite. They are allowing free speech, but clamping down on violence. Would you agree with that?
Yes, exactly. You can, seek the government for redresses of your grievances. You can protest. But, when you start to commit violence as a form of protest, now you're probably going to jail, right?
So you're saying violence is not acceptable protest, which I agree with 100%.
Yeah.
Right.
And we saw that with the people with January 6th, when they broke into the Capitol, they broke the law and they went to jail. Although it's interesting, some people didn't go to jail and they seem to be quite selective. But I just saw yesterday how protesters against ICE, there was a kind of a fence, some stands around the front of the Capitol, and they tipped them over and started running for the Capitol. Now, those people, you can't break the law. You can't speed, you can't commit a crime and expect not there to be consequences, right?
Right.
And so I think that's just keeping us safe from anarchy, behaviors that are unsafe. And so I don't think that's an abusive, kingly type of government when you enforce the rule of law. I mean, come on, people.
Yeah, I wish that you and I could just go out in the street and get us a nice couple of chairs and some tea between us and sit there and talk to some of these protesters and say, honey, let me explain to you why what you're protesting for is more of a king than what you're protesting against.
Right.
It's kind of the Charlie Kirk thing again. They really don't know what they're doing. Yeah. Well, I've got an interesting thing. We had a comment and, let me tell you this first. There was one woman that was interviewed by an independent journalist, and she said, which just broke my heart, and this is against the law, and she shouldn't be thinking this way, but she said, I hope Trump dies. I actually want him to die. My greatest wish is to wake up one morning and know that he is dead. Well, that woman needs serious professional counseling, and I feel sorry for anyone who has to be around such an angry, spewing hatred person, and anyone who knows her should run away now. I don't think people with her angry attitude are good for our society, so I hope she gets some help. But we are not living, it proves the point, we are not living in a monarchy if Trump is allowing that kind of sickness to actually have a voice. And that goes for all the things that the protesters are saying and doing. They're allowing the voice. These poor guys are standing, the military and National Guard are standing there being spit on, having stuff thrown at them. And until it gets violent, they don't do anything. And am I right, Julene?
Right. Boy, I wouldn't want to be an ICE agent or even a police officer. I mean, we're mistreating and disrespecting the very people that are ensuring our lives and our children and our grandchildren's lives, a life of safety and prosperity and freedom. And so, I don't, their sympathy seems to be really misplaced when they're more set on protecting the criminal or the one that's bringing drugs into our country that could potentially destroy our generations, our posterity, And so I do think, though, the further people get away from God and God's law and look to government to solve all their problems, their thinking is not correct, because inevitably sometimes you're going to have people in the White House that you don't like and you disagree with, and then you think your life is going to be over. I live in Washington, D.C. I've gone through Democratic presidents. I've gone through Republican presidents. I've gone through presidents I voted for. I haven't voted for. I didn't vote for President Biden, but I didn't let that impact my ability to discern truth from error and to serve and to do good and to love people, love my neighbors who might have differences of opinions than me, and when you're rooted in God's law and you know that the first great commandment is to love him and then to love your neighbor, it tempers, some of this hostility that you might have for people that have different opinions and different ideas, and you see each other as brothers and sisters of loving, heavenly parents instead of the enemy. And we still, I don't want the man or woman in the White House to dictate when I wake up each day what my mood is going to be. I'm not going to give anyone that much control over myself,
Yeah.
And so you feel kind of badly for these people, right? That their world is just rocked and they just want like death and carnage upon people that disagree with them.
Oh, I feel so bad for that, because to me, that's a painful way to live. Just watching them is painful. I can't imagine actually going through that. So that brings us to the current shutdown, because along these same lines, I just don't get the mind of a Democrat. We can all see the cause of a shutdown is the Democratic attitude of my way or the highway. They don't care who gets hurt or who goes hungry. They like to say that it's the Republican who wants to keep the government open, and yet the Republicans, or wait a minute, I'm sorry. Ken, take that out, please. They don't care who gets hurt or who goes hungry. They like to say that it's the Republican who wants to shut down the government. And yet the Republicans have promised to talk about health care and to work on a deal. They just need the Democrats to sign off on a clean bill to fund the government for another few months. Even several Democrats have agreed that this shutdown is their leverage to keep COVID money flowing. Chris Coons admitted in an interview that they believe the shutdown is their leverage to turn things to their way of thinking. I got news for Chris. We can see right through him. Unfortunately, it seems that most Democrats can't see their own image in a mirror. What do you think, Julene?
Yeah, it seems like the shutdown, they seem to be political, right? When it goes on almost a month now, them not being able to come to some sort of agreement to get things going, even if it's temporary. I mean, I think the whole idea is they're trying, no doubt, to make Trump and his administration look bad, but I think it very well could misfire on them, right? We've had 5 major shutdowns since 1981, and the last shutdown we had was under Trump's first administration in 2018, 2019, and that lasted 34 days. So far, this is the second longest shutdown in our history. It started October 1, so today's 29th, 29 days. We're getting very close to that 34-day mark. But, I think at some point, I think the Republicans have brought bill after bill after bill after bill now in this last 29 days. And so I hope people are going to start to put some pressure on their political leaders if they happen to be Democrats. Me and my husband yesterday went to Washington's Crossing in Pennsylvania. It's about 3.5 hours from Washington, D.C., where George Washington and the Revolutionary troops crossed the Delaware from New Jersey, from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, and then overtook the Haitian troops on Christmas Day, and the day after January 26th. to get our first battle won in the Revolutionary War in 1776, at the end of 1776. Anyways, when you're there in these sacred spots and you feel, the greatness of what these men had to go through. And to be honest with you, I thought as we're driving there, we're halfway there, I'm like, oh no, what if Washington Crossing is closed because of it's a federal park? So I called them and she's like, oh no, ma'am, we're open. This is a state park. And so, I'm beginning to, we're all starting to be semi-impacted. I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Washington Crossing is a state park and not a federal park, because we would have driven 3.5 hours for nothing. But, I think maybe that we need to continue to go to some of these significant places and keep them open, because you feel the spirit of what transpired. I call them holy spots, where men and women had to do hard things. We're doing a hard thing right now, right? These politicians in Washington, D.C., and some are actually working against us, right? It's like, right. It's like the early people that lived in America during the Revolutionary War. 94% of them didn't want to get involved, and the 3% that was trying to do everything they can, to become free and to break away from that oppressiveness of a monarchical, unrighteous government in England. It's not easy, right? And my heart goes out to the men and women in Washington, D.C. right now, and my heart goes out to people that aren't receiving monies right now, and truly in the past they have received those monies retroactively as the government opens up again. But still, imagine going a month without a paycheck. So, I'm saying a lot of things, Deb, but I hope, that we realize that these are hard times, and these are particularly hard times for people that don't have money. But all throughout history, when you try to stand on the side of liberty and freedom and catch a vision of, the kind of government that God wants us to live under, it's not going to feel easy. We're not going to achieve our outcome on a feather bed. It's going to feel uncomfortable, and it's going to be aggravating, and we're going to get angry, and we're going to get worried, and we're all the emotions that come with, standing on higher ground and trying to achieve kind of a higher and holier vision, right?
Right.
So I'm going on and on here, but it's interesting to me that living back here, and you can, to be honest with you, Deb, I'm not really hearing a lot of people that are just destitute, because in Washington, D.C., and that doesn't mean that around the country people aren't suffering, but people are pretty plumped up. The people that work for the government, they make a lot of money in Washington, D.C. And I'm in the past, it's been a nice little vacation shutdowns for people that I've known. And so I would hate to say that is the case for everyone. I don't think that is, but I hope that our elected leaders, I hope the Democrats can come.
Well, Julie, I agree with you. We received a sad comment, and it's a person that's kind of going along the lines you're talking about. I don't know if it was a man or a woman, but they said, I've always been a Democrat. I've always voted for the Democratic Party, but now I don't like what I see. I'm torn on how to vote. I just can't bring myself to be a Republican, and yet I don't want to vote Democrat. What do I do? And you kind of were giving her some information on that, but what do you think this woman should do, or man, whoever it is?
I think a lot are getting disillusioned by some of the behaviors they're seeing with the Democrats. And look, I always say, study out history. Go to Washington Crossings, go to Plymouth, feel the spirit of the men and women that fought for this country and established it. Take the Healing of America seminars that really, will give you a bedrock foundation of the establishment of this land and the Constitution and where we've gone wrong and how we can heal it. Read the 5,000-year lead, those 28 principles upon which our founders, drew upon, and then study it out, I say. Look, God rewards efforts, but you just can't go on what the news or, what you learn in school that kind of, starting to get diluted and go back to their original historians, go back to the founders' writings, or go to trusted people. If you really want to know, reach out to us. And I know classes that are being taught, they're free every single day. And I can, connect you with people throughout our country that are teaching and learning these truths. Because you can't always trust, right? We've learned in the fake news, in the fake curriculums, in the fake university teachings. And so if you experience some confusion, I think you have to go to some of these sources and study it out for yourself, and then ask God, what should I do? Right?
Exactly. I agree with you 100%, Julene. But you know how I am. I take a problem and I tear it into pieces and I look at the details. So I agree exactly with you. Do the research. A lot of people are confused or have problems making decision on who to vote for because they don't know the details of what's going on in the world. So get you some research going. But I came up with a unique way to help our listener transfer their emotional feelings into more of a mathematical or strategical move. So I suggest that this person look at the percentage of common sense in both parties. So once you got the history research done and you know exactly how our government works, then go for the common sense and find out what you need to feel safe. So, for example, the Republican Party and Trump received the most popular vote, most electoral college numbers, but there was a reason, and everybody's talked about it. It's because he had the highest percentage of common sense, and that common sense calmed the people that were voting for him. He wanted to close the borders, not allow men and women's sport, change the world through economic growth, which is great. Get rid of DEI, bring God to the forefront, punish the criminals, and help the citizens with peace, prosperity, and personal freedoms. Now, those platforms worked for me. And many of his other promises are things I would do myself if I could do that job, which I cannot. So let's look at the percentage of common sense in the Democratic parties. And there's several of them. I'll go through them quick because we're about at the end of our time. But Dems were okay with the Biden and the auto pen. And to me, that suggests criminal behavior. Spamberger is okay with Jones, who actually said he wants to kill opponents and their children. Now, Democrats accuse Trump of wanting to kill his opponents, but he doesn't. Instead, he uses the power of economics to conquer through peace because he doesn't want anyone to die. AOC, who they say leads the party now, hasn't done one thing for her district. No bills, no fulfilled promises. And many of the Democrats don't do anything. Check out what they're actually accomplishing. The Democrats can't seem to line up their policies with success. So their policies in cities where they have total control, they destroy the city rather than build them up. So look at San Francisco, Chicago, and other blue states. So what's the answer according to those elected officials? Well, instead of supporting or having the facts to support their philosophies, they lie. And they tell you, oh, everything's okay. Don't look over there. Don't look over there. While at the same time, they're watching citizens in their state run for another state. Dems are okay with criminals and out of control protesters. But you can't work with people who only want to be angry and physically fight. They call Trump a bully, but they refuse to talk and compromise with anyone themselves. So it's their way or the highway. So who's actually the bully here? And they don't care about the people they serve. People are hurting right now. They need help. They need this shutdown to end. But I heard, like I said before, Coons and other people say, oh, this is just leverage to help us get a better hold on the government. I don't believe the percentage of common sense abides within the Democratic Party, and that's why I can't vote for them. So I would suggest to our listener, raise it to a different level, compare what you want to happen in your part of the country or what you want to happen to the whole country, and see which party matches that. And you don't have to run around saying I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. Just say, I vote for what's right or what I believe is right. So, what do you think, Julene?
A lot. You make a lot of really good points. I like this whole idea of, well, just think about it. Does that make sense? Like, think of the ballroom, for instance. So President Trump is demolishing the East, I don't want to say East Wing, but the East build, the part where they would have, dignitaries come for dinners and so forth. I've been in that East Room. It's very small. And he wants to make it probably of the ballroom the size of Mar-a-Lago. I've been in both those places. Both you and I have been in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
It fits 300 to 400 people. But, instead of taxing, the American people to pay for that $300 million ballroom, he said he's paying for it himself. He and some friends. He's gone and found some private donors, and he's going to build something that he is going to be proud to host, foreign dignitaries from around the world, and show, the beauty of this White House. It is really a reflection on the free market and capitalism and the freedom in which we enjoy in America, and to show, the abundance and the beauty of a life like that. And so why would this be bad? Let's just think about it. He's not taxing us. He's doing it because of the pride that he has for this country, and he wants to represent, this nation well to visiting guests. And so, I think we just need to temper some of our hostilities and just look at situations and go, what could possibly be bad about beautifying and enlarging, the White House to be able to accommodate, instead of put people in tents in the middle of winter when we have more than 100 people that need to be fed, at the White House. And so I just think let's let cooler heads prevail, right? And
I like that. I like that, Julene. I agree. Well, we're getting close to our time, but let me say this first to the person that wrote us. Julene and I both will be praying for you, and we know you'll make the right decision. Just do your research and look at common sense, and we know you're going to do the right thing. We have been talking about how to protect our kids from violence, and the plan is you must love your child completely. Your child must learn respect for you as a parent and mentor. You have to discipline. You must teach communication and how to influence others so they can be a Charlie Kirk and not be afraid of conversations. They need to be unselfish, because selfishness breeds jealousy and hatred. So today's tip fits our listener that needed our help today. Teach your child how to find truth in everything you see, study, feel, or join. In other words, your life must be based on truth. How do you do that? I like to play the what if game. It allows your child to practice finding the truth without suffering consequences. So while you're running errands, eating supper, or just sitting by the pool, play the what if game by saying, Lila, what would you do if your best friend spread gossip about you? How would you feel? How could you solve that problem? And then say to Johnny, well, what if you someone decided to exclude you from a party? How would you feel? How could you handle it? Always work to help your child see the problems in life and how to try to solve them. They will be less angry and violent and more of a calm problem solver. Do you agree, Julene?
Yeah, it is perfect. And we do that in our home with a family devotional. Just last night, we're sitting around the table. One child left at home. She's almost 18. We were studying out of the Bible, attributes of Christ. And it talked about love unfeigned. That means fake love. And what's the difference between real love and having fake love? If you see your friends wanting to go to a party where there's alcohol, or to be immoral with a boy or smoke pot, and you don't say anything, that's love unfeigned. That's fake love. You can't. And so we helped her to kind of unpack the meaning of the Word of God and to apply it to her life and to scenarios in her world. And so we kind of have to systematically teach kids how to discern truth. And the best way is take them to the sacred holy writ, right, in Scripture. And that will help them to discern truth from error. And so, and that comes with being in relationship with God and praying and being able to carry the Spirit of God with you to sense when something's off.
I think that is one of the most important things we will teach our children.
I agree. I love doing these podcasts with you, Julie.
Gotcha, sister.
Okay, subscribe to this podcast and join us again. You can ask a question or request that we dig into a specific topic by writing Debbie at debbiejansen.com. Keep those comments coming. Thanks again to our wonderful producer, Ken Jansen. Oh my goodness, Ken, we couldn't do this without you. And for today, this is Debbie Jansen, and I'm sticking to the truth.
And I'm Jolene Jackson, and we hope that you will keep sticking to the truth. We will see you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.